What is up, YouTube? You are listening to Behind the Wall, presented by Perky Jerky. As always, I am Kane Jr. 88 here with my asshole friends, or I mean best friends, Thermite 917 and Junior Nation 5788. And for the second week in a row, we found him wandering in the woods, and he just didn't want to leave because his life sucks right now. Damani HD is back with us. So this week, the Monster Energy Cup Series was off. They obviously are back in action next weekend in Darlington, South Carolina. But this weekend, the Xfinity Series had a wild race up at Road America in Wisconsin. We will briefly discuss that. But tonight's show is mostly going to revolve around our PS3 Racing League, the Coca-Cola Racing Series.
Well, yeah. Road America. It's going to be extremely tough to briefly discuss that because, my lord, it was a hell of a race. And the miracle of all miracles, I can't believe I'm saying this sentence, but Jeremy Clements won the race. It was unbelievable. I'm stunned. Former Mr. Boudreau's butt paste comes home and kicks the ass of everyone and wins in an underfunded wagon. Unbelievable. Just great job.
In a chassis from 2008.
Exactly. These guys have nothing, have very, very little, and come out there and win the race. It's literally the story of the year. I remember saying last week, I thought about this, saying that Ryan Blaney winning was my favorite moment. Yeah, no, this week topped it.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah.
It's just too cool of a story, and that's really all I want to talk about. I mean, it was a really good race. Rain was threatening. It never came, but there was still enough beating and banging, stuff like that going on, and it was just your typical lower series road course race. So it sucks as that was the last one for Xfinity, but certainly looking forward to the truck race in Canadian Tire Motorsports Park this weekend.
Well, obviously, it's crazy enough that Clements won, but even crazier was the way he got the lead. I mean, 2 laps to go. They're coming to the white flag. He and Matt Tifft. He's all over his back bumper. And what does he do? He accidentally got loose in the final turn and caused them both to spin out. And he did not lose any positions. In fact, that's how he passed Matt Tifft for the lead, was by spinning both himself and Tifft out, but he got straightened out and refired quicker than Tifft did. And Michael Annett, who was, of course, running third, he was way too far back to catch the two of them. And yeah, man, if you want craziest race of the year, you got it right there.
Yeah, that's for sure. There's just the last thing to add about that is I still love that there's plenty of people out there going, need it past them cleanly. That's one way to get a win. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's good.
People over there, a couple of Joe Gibbs fangirls like, Matt Tifft was going to win and that fucking Jeremy Clements, that racist piece of shit. Oh, that's right. I seen people bringing up a story from 4 years ago how Jeremy Clements used the N-word, and I'm like, what are you bringing this up for? Like, what is your point? Really? Like, shut up.
He may never win again. Let him enjoy it.
Yeah.
Exactly. First of all, he was going to pass Matt Tifft. Yeah, and I guarantee you he was going like, oh, fuck, and stepped on his dick going into the last turn. I'm sure he did. It's okay. But he was in an amazing position. He was going to go for it. He had nothing to lose. Absolutely nothing to lose. And really, I mean, neither does Matt Tifft. But the thing about it is, he's in way better equipment, and Matt Tifft has a hell of a lot better shot at getting a win than Jeremy Clements will ever have again. Likely.
Yeah.
So, Good for those guys, man. Hell of an effort. And if we were giving out awards, he would get the cigar by far.
Yep.
All right, well, now we're going to move on to our main discussion topic, and that is our PS3 Racing League. Yes, we raced in a league together for quite some time. The Coca-Cola Racing Series was the name of our PS3 league. and we ran it from 2013 until late into 2016. We ran across 3 different games: NASCAR the Game Inside Line, NASCAR 14, and NASCAR 15. And we had quite a time with it. Yeah, obviously we're all gamers here, and that's like basically the reason why we met. And this is one of the things that we did, and uh, it just was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. We miss it. So we're basically going to take time to reflect on some of the just a variety of things, from best races, worst races, all sorts of stuff. This is our nostalgia. This is what gets us going. Nick, do you want to go ahead and share what our league was all about?
I joined at the start of season 4 and ended up being a co-host with Middleburg after Damani said, "Screw this, I'm going home." And yeah, I mean, it was a great league. It was casual. Everyone had fun for the most part, but it was also serious to the point where we didn't want guys racing like complete dumbasses, and some still tried to. But we ran our own cautions because you know how, if you do know, the game likes to screw up when a caution comes out. So we did it by ourselves, and it went pretty smoothly for the most part. And yeah, just a lot of it. Like the races were around 25% distance, but it was plenty of time for everything to play out. Like there were really eventful races, and there's a lot that stick out in our minds, and we'll go over some of those shortly. But yeah, it was a great time, and yeah, it was no regrets really. It was a really fun thing to be a part of.
Absolutely. The league started itself. I was the initial owner of it. Me and R24 ZAT 99 YSQ. Oh my God, I have to say that name.
Fucking Zach.
Fucking Zach. Yeah, my buddy Zach. You know, he rest in peace. He doesn't do anything on anything anymore. He made half-ass paint schemes too. I feel free to bust his ass here. They were terrible, and but there was a time he was a part of it too. Him and I decided to come up with a league. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. This is still earlier part of Inside Line, and initially it was just started out as a fun, just like literally it was just supposed to be for a fun league, for something to do. Our first race was early March 2013. Our first track was Martinsville. We had a 6-car race, and it was just it was just weird. It was you know, we obviously hadn't done it before, but from that time period, from that race until the final race, which was Homestead in season 6, after 180 complete league races, technically we ran 200 points paying races with our additional series, which was the short track shootout. We'll get into that later too. But yeah, that is the overall general statistics. Damani HG, he is our winningest driver of all time, so we're here with greatness.
That's
as
right.
well.
That's right.
Mr. What was it? 40, how many damn wins did you have?
I don't really know, but it was around there, and it took a long ass time.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. Sometimes it was really easy. I'm going to be straight up honest.
You didn't really deserve all of them, but
yeah, no.
I mean, sometimes you don't deserve to hire the wrong driver to drive for you in the chase race either. But we all make mistakes.
Yeah, we'll probably get to that later too.
Yeah, we probably will.
A lot of shit.
You're gonna learn a lot of our backstories and everything, our running jokes.
Absolutely, yeah. a lot of like loopholes will be tied up right here in this podcast that no one will listen to. But
exactly, yeah, we're gonna be whopping in a whole 3,000 views.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You bank on that. But by the time it ended, I had been there at every single race weekend for all the races. I didn't actually run every single race, something that will also be covered. But no one else got anywhere, ran as many races as I did. Damani joined in the second race, and he raced sporadically from season 1 until the final season, winning 3 of the titles. So he was obviously not only the most winningest driver, but he had the most titles as well by the time we got to the end of it. Yes, it's the Money HG Appreciation Tour, if you didn't know.
2K17.
2K17, exactly. But, yeah, so we obviously ran 180 races. So there was good ones and bad ones. So, gentlemen, let's start talking about our favorite races. Started off on a good note. So, Nick, I'll let you go first. What was your favorite all-time CCRS race?
If I had to pick one, I mean, it's really hard. I mean, just going down my list, all our Kentucky races were really good for the most part. The one that stands out is, I think it was season 6, where we all had an enormous save down the backstretch, and the caution never came out, and it looked like a big crash, but we all held on to it. That's one of the moments that will always stick out. Another one, just quickly going through it, Auto Club in season 6, where I forgot how much I actually led in that one, but I was leading coming to the final pit stop, and my tires were so worn, and I spun out coming to pit road, and right at that same time the caution came out, so that turned out that I was the last car to not pit because I never made it to pit road, so I cycled out in the lead, and I held off good old Jamie Dobbs, and won that one, but that was a really crazy finish in that one. And
hey, I finished second, you son of a bitch.
Well, no one remembers that.
I know that, except for me.
Yeah.
Who?
But just one more was our final race, Homestead Season 6. I grabbed the win there. That was a pretty eventful one, but I'm honored to be able to win the final one. Well, who knows if it'll be the final for sure. We might do some more. Who knows? Maybe NASCAR Heat 2.
Never know. But thank you for sharing that. I'm going to give a couple as well. And I'm going to have to jump in on one that you already said. Season 6, Kentucky. And that was ended up winning that race. And that I consider was my greatest victory ever. It was like just one of those where I went out there and it was crazy. Not only with all the shit that was happening, there were so many different leaders. You mentioned the almost big crash, which was insane. I mean, literally 5 people were crashing towards the inside wall, and we kept it going. All of us kept it. I mean, just stood back on the gas and went green. I mean, it was the most incredible thing. And I was able to get the lead about the halfway point. We had a really long green flag run. I pulled away and never looked back. We did have a late caution and held off on the restart, and it was just it was absolutely the most satisfying win I ever had. I ended up winning, I think it was 38 times total, and that was my next to last victory. It was the second race of the season, and it was a hell of a race. The funnest one that I've ever had, and I just happened to win it too, so that was a great one. Another one that sticks out of my mind, season 3, Indianapolis. Only one person here is going to remember that one. That's Mr. Demani HG.
And if maybe I want to forget about it.
And that's why I brought it up, because I knew it was going to make him salty. He was absolutely the faster of the two of us there, and that's fine. I drove a clean race just like him.
You were. I was the fastest out of the two, and then for some reason, I don't know, you put on 2 tires, I put on 4. I'm thinking, all right, anytime I'm going to start clicking off laps and make time, and all I did was lose time the rest of the race for some reason.
It was crazy. But see, not only did I do that once, I did it 2 times in a row. That meant I'm trying to remember. It's tough because it's been a while, but if I'm correct, I ran the last 30 laps of that race, and now keep in mind, this is on times 3 tire wear. The last 30 laps of the race on the same set of left side tires.
Yep.
The whole way through, because I changed 2 tires, 2 consecutive pit stops, and just continued to pad my lead and ran consistent between those runs and never let you catch me. So that was a really satisfying one. And
it was good.
I'm trying to think of one that I had a lot of fun and didn't win, because I don't want to be that guy that's just like, I love everyone I won, like an arrogant little prick. But I'll say that. Shit. Okay, I'll say Homestead for our last race because of the significance. They had a couple people that showed up that hadn't been racing a lot, and it was a really good race. And it's weird that I say this because I had actually dominated the first half of it and then self-destructed myself twice. I wrecked while leading, and then drove from the back to the front again and wrecked again, and then I was dead last on the last restart and laid back and saved fuel and almost won the thing. Ended up finishing second, but it was a good race. It had it was just one of those races. Just had enough action, and then at the end with the fuel mileage, you didn't know who was going to win. Some asshole in a 20 car ended up beating me. But we'll look past that. It was still a good race. So, Damani, get in there, mix it up. Tell us what your favorite race was, or favorite race is. Give us like 6.
Yeah. Yeah, 12. I can think about 20, but a couple of them, I mean, they have to be at tracks like Martinsville, just because Martinsville is always cool. And no one's mentioned Martinsville yet, but there's a lot of Martinsville races. There's a lot of Martinsville races that aren't so memorable, for sure. And there's other ones that are really nice. Obviously, I like the road courses. No one else does. That's not going to be worth talking about. I always liked Kansas, racing at Kansas. I wasn't always the fastest, but, just the high side kind of thing, and it was always, wicked fun. One of my favorite races from Kansas was actually one that Tyler didn't end up racing in. We all were able to race afterwards, but it was just a good finish at the end.
I blew up.
And, well, yeah, you blew up before the race there.
No.
Another one.
Jackass, I was there.
One of my other favorites was Kentucky, actually, the one where Tyler was able to beat me. Because, yeah.
Sounds like you like losing.
Season
6.
Oh, it was season 6, yeah.
Season 6,
I thought you were talking about season 2 because I beat you in that one too.
Season 2, yeah. Well, there was a particular Kentucky race where I had a pretty nice lead over. I think I lapped everyone except, I don't know, you. You came out of pit road and clocked my Wrangler. So we had to restart. You restart first. I think you ultimately won the race. I was pissed.
I did.
And
I threw the hard block on you in 3 and 4, and you were like, "Motherfucker!"
Yeah, and I was gonna throw a hard block at you after the race, being my helmet. But whatever. Yeah. What about you, Kane? How about some tales from the back of the tail?
That was a good one.
I mean, one of my favorite races would obviously have to be my win at Charlotte in season 6. Season 6 was probably, and I joined in season 5, so obviously season 6 was probably have to be my made the chase that year. And yeah, I mean, obviously since I first joined, up until my win at Charlotte, the meet racing had been a huge struggle. Starting a wreck, getting caught up in someone else's wreck, or our favorite pastime, getting glitch spun. I've had my fair share of bad luck in this series, but, the mile and a halfs had been more of a strength for me because I'm not on the brakes as much. And it was an interesting race because we decided to eliminate the lap 5 competition caution.
Which was a great move.
And yeah, it absolutely was.
It was a great
I'm
move.
glad you brought that up. That was something, just one of the many rule changes. That's how we evolved,
That came out after I had left, really controlling the league. But, I mean, I still, was able to talk to you guys and stuff. And it was honestly something that I wish we did sooner, but at least we did it when we did, and it was a good idea. Yeah.
But yeah. So we got rid of the lap 5 competition caution, and then, this is almost damn. I'm gonna let you get back to your story here soon, Kane. But this particular thing, just one of the many things that we changed along the way to make the racing a little bit better. We had a lap 5 competition caution for seasons, and this was mainly allowed to for everybody to get their setups in because we knew that everybody has a pit road setup, and that's how you.
Yep.
Since we didn't have custom setups,
Right.
everybody was going to put a pit road setup in on the first pit stop. So we just basically sped up the process. Well, it had just gotten to the point where it's like, oh, we just keep doing the same damn thing over and over and over again. So let's go ahead and change it. And adding the lap 5 competition, removing that, and basically having everybody run on the default setup, and then make adjustments on your pit stops. And sometimes you didn't get your entire setup in on the first stop, so you had to kind of adjust a little bit at a time. Some races weren't caution fest,
Yeah, a little
so
bit here and there.
yeah. So it just was a whole different dynamic, and that race did get started by running the default setup. We ran green for quite a bit of that race, and then by the time everybody got their setups in, then it got crazy at the end. And go ahead, Kane.
Yeah, obviously, like Tyler said, things got really crazy at the end with a rash of cautions, and I had actually been caught up in a wreck with Paint and Criminal. And I thought my day was done, but another caution came out right after that, and I stayed out, and that put me closer to the front. And I actually managed to get the lead before a green-white checkered, and held off. And somehow I held off Paint. I thought for sure Paint was going to wreck me in one of the corners because he's notorious for doing that shit.
We all thought that. I mean, because I remember when you got that lead. And you were in an amazing position. Like, you haven't been in this spot before. I mean, you pulled the fucking Jeremy Clements. You hadn't been in this spot before. And it was just like, oh, man, what's going to go wrong for Kane?
Mm-hmm.
And you held him off like a champ. And Paint the 88 fan, he was one of our solid racers, but he had occasional problems with throwing it in the corner and bubbling your ass. And that's just what happens. But it did not happen. He gave Kane an absolute charge, and Kane held him off like a champ. So even though that was your only triumph, it was we're giving you a bunch of shit, but at the same time, that was a great job of holding that off and to get that win. So,
Yep, that was definitely one of my most memorable moments. But another one is actually obviously a race I didn't win, but it would have to be the like Nick said, the season 6 race at Homestead. It was it was definitely a crazy way to end the series. It all came down to fuel mileage at the end. I knew I wasn't going to win because I think Thermite had the whole field checked. He had checked out from everybody else from then. Yeah, I think it was D Criminal. I think had a chance to steal the title away from Damani, but he screwed up.
Yep.
And then Paint, he was in the process of taking the lead when he had to pit with 2 to go to get more fuel, and somehow, some way, that allowed Thermite to win it. So,
yeah.
But yeah, and what's really cool about that race was the 4 of us actually finished in the top 4. So, that was actually a really fun way. If that was our last race, that was a great way to go out with me finishing. Obviously, Thermite won, Middleburg was second, I was third, and DeMonte, who obviously won the championship that year, he came home a strong 4th.
A strong 4th.
Yeah, strong 4th. Quote unquote strong.
Just for the record, Damani had the championship locked up going into that race. It was going to take a fucking miracle for D Criminal to win that. Damani would have had to not show up. And Criminal would have had to win just to tie him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it was going to take an awful lot.
And it's crazy the Criminal was even in that situation because he was one of those drivers where he'd be okay, I guess, but something would always go wrong to him, either by strategy or wrecking or whatever. But then the chase comes along and he wins the first couple or whatever. And
he won 3. He won 3 or 4 races. 3 of the 7 in the chase. It was insane. He had an incredible momentum burst.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what the chase is about. Sometimes I went the other direction, but with Criminal, everyone was like, "Okay, what's going on here? Do we have another player in this thing?" And then he ended up pulling a D Criminal and not winning at the end, but it added a new element to everything.
Yeah, season 6. Just to kind of get back to how our league was and how it evolved, it was very different. I guess we'll just go ahead and we'll make that a discussion for now because there's a lot to talk about there. From season 1, which was I mean, granted, me and Zach were just taking the reins. Jamani joined in. He was there from the second race onwards, and him and I had dominated that season. And the interesting part was when we got to the chase. Well, right before it, we had won. I don't know. I'm just gonna say roughly 70% of the races, and
So
we
about
came
all.
together and right, and I think I'm shorting it. I think it was more than that, but we just came together and made a decision that we needed to step out and put ourselves out of the running. And basically, we ended up becoming pace cars for half of the chase. And we did kind of run in. We ran a few races here and there just because we could jump in, but we were no longer in the points battle because we were so sick of like how uncompetitive it was, and it was just one of the weird decisions. Because had that not happened, me and him would have battled it out to the end of that season.
Yeah, and speaking of weird CCRS decisions, I got some dirt from my buddy Tyler here. It's funny because we bring it to season 2, where I recall that I think I was or I wasn't racing right in the beginning. I don't think.
Well, you started out racing. I mean, but you missed a couple races here and there just because you
Oh
had
yeah,
to or
right,
whatever.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, um, it was a slow start, but eventually worked my way back in, and I think I raced like 4 races in a row, and I think I won like 4. And then there was this one night at Daytona. I guess Tyler got pretty bad that I had we were pitting at Daytona back then. We don't do that anymore, but we used to have pit stops at the plate tracks, and I had jumped, but I just jumped ahead way out front, and I wasn't supposed to win that race, but I still did just because of an unfair pit stop that I had in my advantage. And so mad afterwards that I didn't get invited back to the next race. And I was asking everyone what's going on, and they said, "Oh, we're asking him," and I'm like, "Well, okay, he's not talking."
It was a bad night. All right, and again, this is part of the bad decisions. We all made some bad
Because I was just
decisions.
so shocked.
Since we're on the subject and stuff, let's get the bad decision or sloppy races topic out of the way. I guess I'll give mine then. Dover. First of all the Dover races kind of sucked. Even the one I won, it was just a mess of cautions and everything. But there was one, I think it was season 4. Um, if it wasn't, it was season 5. But I think it was season 4.
It was season 4.
Where
you're getting at.
coming down to the end, there's a wreck on the backstretch. I think I was involved, and our caution rules are if 2 or more are involved, it's a caution. If there's only 1, then it's not because you can just wreck yourself to get a caution then. But it was like a split-second decision. I think. Which way did I go? Did I say we need a caution or that we didn't?
Actually, I don't know which race you're fucking talking about now. Because if it was the one that I won, then okay. But I don't.
No, I don't mean
remember
the. I don't mean the one where you got into race team.
Yeah, that was season 4.
Okay, maybe it was season 5 then. But there was one at Dover where there was some caution confusion, where I said maybe it should be, and Middleburg said no, let's keep going or whatever, and then everyone was just kind of doing whatever. Then at that point, we didn't know what was going on, and then I forgot even who got to the line first or whatever. But then after that, we thought about it, and it's like, okay, let's do this again. And we kind of just redid a green-white checkered or whatever, and I think Damani won that one. But
That's right.
But
yeah, because that was Damani's only win of season 5.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
I was salty and I understood it, but I mean that kind of was the race that led to us saying, okay, we got to clean up our communication and be more, definite on what we're talking about. So I think that was a good race because it was kind of a turning point. But at the time, it was like, really, we're doing this crap. So
Yep.
that's one that really stuck out.
I want to jump in there too while you're talking about Dover because that was going to be my sloppiest races too, were all of the Dover ones really, because I don't know what the hell happened. Like the last 3 Dover races were so terrible, and I don't understand really why. And because at times there was some pretty good racing. I'll bring up season 6. There was a lot of great racing going on. That was a race it kind of like similar to the race that happened this year, the Dover race in the spring. Like there was a lot of great racing and it had a shitty end. Well, that's how this league race ended, and it sucked. Me, Damani, Thermite, you were there, and God Power, one of our sporadic drivers in the last couple of seasons, he had a lot of pace, but we were all battling there, and the race should have ended that way, and it just didn't. Some cautions started happening. Him and I got real close one time, and that ended up causing a wreck. But then wreck after wreck after wreck, and it just was a total shit show towards the end of it. And it was just like, man, that really blows. It should have never ended like that. I'll back up to season 4, which was the one that I won, also in just another one of those races, complete shit show. And it came down to the end, and just, oh my god, it had been a weird season. I hadn't won thus far. And I was coming on like a bat out of hell on the last lap on new tires. I was trying to get to our old buddy Race Team 28. We'll talk about him later for sure in our scrub section. And I got in the back of him, and I just wanted to move him up the damn racetrack. I don't know. I was in over my head, sure, because I crashed him. I mean, it's just what happened. I can't go around it. And he ended up spinning out, and I won the race, and it was just, races like that, and certainly didn't take any pride in. And I won a couple bad ones like that, but certainly the Dover ones were the worst in terms of sloppiness by far.
I mean, yeah, Dover, they were slop fest. I mean, my first Dover race, oh man, that was horrible. I can't tell you how many times I glitch spun off turn 2. Yeah, that turn 2 at Dover, not just in video games, but in real life, turn 2 at Dover is a fucking nightmare. I can't tell you how many times I wrecked in that race. It was just so frustrating, not just for me, but for everybody else, because I kept wrecking others too. And at that point, and I was like late in the race, I was like, you know what, fuck this, and I just quit.
The whole point of that really is being frustrated. Everybody, including the winner, was frustrated, and I feel like I can say that for the last 3 Dover races. Damani, what do you think? What about a different sloppy race? There were several of them, unfortunately, but it happens. It's league racing.
I think it was season 3, Texas, the last Texas race on inside line, and I had just been kind of sitting around the top, probably 2 or 3 rows, sitting like 4th, 5th, 6th, because I remember. We switched lobbies for the second half of the race in the final 28 laps, I think it was. And ever since we switched, it was just caution after caution after caution. We couldn't run 1 or 2 laps, really. It'd be a miracle if we got to 2. So I kept on pitting for 4 tires, blah, blah, blah. Finally, we have like a end of the race, like 8 or 9 green flag run. And I was able to pull out and stretch that one to win. But I remember before that, it was just caution. I was like, I'm never going to pit for 2 tires because we're just going to wreck the next lap. So I'm just going to be ready for the long green flag run that we might have. And when those sloppy races happen, you always think ahead. So you can be ready for when it cleans up. You never know what's going to. So you always got to be ready.
There was several races that had similar outcomes and reactions like that. It just seemed like they couldn't never get going or whatever. I'll throw in another random one quick, with season 6 Pocono. I'll also get into that shortly. But the start of that race was a nightmare. I mean, we just could not get past turn 1 or turn 2. I couldn't tell you the amount of times that I'd fucking fire off on a restart. I'm a second ahead of everybody going into the fucking tunnel turn, and we got a wreck. It's like, oh my god. It must have happened at least 5 times in a row to start the race. And it was just so frustrating. It was like, okay, are we going to fucking get through turn 1 or whatever? And that leads me into saying this. There was times where we would just make a manager decision, like, okay, we're turning off cautions for a couple of laps because we just had to step in. Yeah. If we didn't, we were just going to keep wrecking. So it was like, all right, we're going to put the brakes on some of this shit, and we're going to have cautions off for a couple of laps, and you guys are going to figure out how to fucking make it so that we can actually have a race here. And that had to happen a couple of times. And there were some times where we said, okay, cautions are off, and we get going clean, and it worked out. So,
and just to be clear to everyone, our races, we had plenty of races with very long green flag runs. Like, we knew what we were doing. There were a lot of clean drivers, but there was just some that did not go that way.
no.
But that was pretty rare, I'd say.
It was. As the league evolved, and as we got better on, made better decisions, had better rules, and we were just better managers overall, everything started to get cleaner, and we didn't have a whole lot of shitty races, especially in the last season. There were too many races, honestly, that were just straightforward. And there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes we just had to take pride in a night like that because it could always be worse. So, while we're talking controversial races, I want to get into one last one. And it was the 100th ever CCRS race, and we scheduled it perfectly for it to be Martinsville. This was season 3, and it was not an eventful race. We had an extremely long green flag run. 100 laps, I believe it was, to end the race. So again, amidst all the races that were sloppy, we had ones that were super clean. This was one of them. It got down to the end of the race. Damani was having the race in hand. There was 3 people in the lead lap. I was third, and like near the end, about ready to get lapped. But Damani loses connection, and it was like, oh my god, what do we do? Because this really hadn't happened like that. Like, people have lost connection in the middle of races before, but not to that degree. He was leading the race, dominating. He was going to win it. All he had to do was just run the last 10 laps. This is with 10 to go. He, loses connection. So I'm losing my mind because I'm like, what the hell's going to happen here? We just keep running laps. And we technically finished the race but I was still making a decision. This was one of those times where as a manager, I needed to step up. In season 6, I would have stepped up, but in season 3, I stepped on my dick, clearly. And we ended up I just was like, okay, let's just rerun the last 10 laps of the race. Let's throw a caution. We'll back out, do a new lobby, have basically a fresh lobby, and we'll go at it again. And oh my god, was that a clusterfuck. It ended up turning into a fucking caution fest. Damani still ultimately got the win, but we basically had to step in and make a ruling, because how we would have, it should have been ruled as to where, okay, well, that really sucks for you, Damani, but we just got to finish the race. That's what the ruling should have been. But we decided to calling the race 10 laps early, as if there was like a rain delay or a rain income or something like that, to make it the fairest possible, because that's just kind of what was going to happen. The race was set in stone. There likely wasn't going to be a yellow, and it was just going to finish the way it was going to be. So we ended up going back to the results of what it was going to be on lap 140 or whatever of 150, and we just went with that as a ruling. And that was just one of those tough league races where you had to make a decision as a manager, and it's shitty. It really is. I loved having the power, but at the same time, having that power is not always the greatest thing. All right, well, now that we got a bunch of those damn sloppy races out of the way, heartbreaking losses. We all have them, and I'm gonna kick it off. And there's several races. I can't just ever pick one. Okay. There were so many of them that happened. I'm going to start Season 2 Martinsville. Martinsville obviously was one of our considered crown jewel races because it was the first race that we ever ran. We ran, I believe, 9 or 10 times there over the course of 6 seasons, and I was never able to win there. Martinsville is just my weakest track. It's my favorite track, but just my weakest. I could never really get around it. But I had a great opportunity to win in Season 2. Luckily, to not having a cream of crop field, I guess let's just go ahead and not sugarcoat it. But I was in such a great position, and I had lapped up to third place of I believe like an 8-car race. So I was doing well, and a bullshit caution happened late, and I just was never able to get the lead back. I mean, I lost it and the guy who won it, Zachary, he won it fair and square, but it was just an extremely heartbreaker. Because, like, damn it, I always wanted to win there. Never had a great shot after that. Uh, Now, a couple season 6 races. Pocono season 6, as one that I mentioned, the start was horribly sloppy, but once we got going, it was incredibly clean, and that night, I was just on it. And we got to the, I believe, last series of pit stops, and I was leading, had a great lead, running clean laps, and what the hell happens? I just decide, like, okay, I'm gonna pit. I think I'm gonna catch everybody off guard here and pit a little bit early so that I can undercut everybody, and just try to get a little bit more lead. But what happens? The fucking petting zoo is open, and everybody comes down pit road. I was like, oh no! And with the thing with these the Eutechnics games and being online, all the pit stalls are all right in a row. You don't choose your pit stall, and the pit stalls are determined by the order which you entered the lobby initially, except for the host, who automatically gets the first pit stall all the time. And I did not have it. I believe I was I don't know, next to last, maybe the last pit stall. But the problem with having a big lead at that point is the guys that were in the back of the field were coming into their pit stall as I was leaving. And what happened was I got tripped up a little bit by no fault of theirs. I mean, it was nobody's fault. It was just circumstance. And I got slowed up, and I noticed a Thermite and Paint the 88 fan, who were the two guys that were behind me. They were beating me out of pit road, or it was really close, and I just gassed like a motherfucker on the exit. And for those that have raced online and have done pit stops, you can't do that every single place because there's wheel spin. And I basically, spun out on pit road. And that's a running joke. That's one of our many running jokes, where I spun out on pit road after leading. Yeah, I did it. And I lost the race. Ended up finishing third, could never get the lead back, and just basically lost the whole rhythm. That was a heartbreaker. And then season 6 Talladega. We haven't really talked a whole lot about plate races, but I won my fair share of them. I actually won 4 in a row at one point, 5 or 6 at all Talladega. Not to mention I won both of the Daytona races in the last season. I was always good there. Just for some reason, I could always make my way to the front and be there at the right time. And season 6, the first Talladega race, which we used to do a doubleheader in the chase. That was just always our thing. We did a double Talladega, and it made things a little bit crazier. The first race, I led 17 3/4 of 18 laps and got fucking just bypassed at a turn 4 on the last lap. It was just incredible. I just such a heartbreaker. It was like, god damn, we choreographed. Oh my god, it was so frustrating just thinking about it now. Like, we choreographed that race. I was able to stay in front. Obviously I had helpers. Thank you, Thermite. And like everything was going so perfectly fine, and then we just got snookered, man. Oh, it was such a heartbreaker. I mean, leading every damn lap, and you just lose like that. It sucked.
Yeah.
I can't say anything else, man. Damani, how about you? You lost your fair share, after dominating races and then finishing 7th. So fill us in.
Yeah. It was Michigan. I think it was season 5 or 4 or 5. I don't know. I started the race coming out of turn 4 on lap 1, and glitch spun, and we went green the entire fucking race. Finished like mid-pack somewhere, but really heartbreaking to me because I was like, I've never had a race like that where it was just riding around like clueless. So that was miserable. Last one that I can think of was at Atlanta in season 6, and I put on 2 tires for the final run and made some ground on Thermite. And Thermite put on 4. It wasn't a good track to do that at. It was the final couple laps. He got around me, and nothing I could really do. So that's when I was really starting to think that, like, I don't even fucking know if I can win a championship. Yeah, this is gonna keep happening. And after that, some really good shit happened. So thank you, Thermite, for beating me in the regular season where it didn't count.
Yeah.
What about you, Kane? Your career of CCRS must just be a giant broken down the middle heart.
It pretty much is.
Bringing on the heartbreak. Feature
Yeah,
Kane.
please
Kane
don't
88.
please don't list every single race
I'm
you've
not-
been in.
No.
Except Charlotte.
But I would have to say the most heartbreaking would have to be Season 5 Talladega race, the first race of the doubleheader. I actually led the most laps in that race. I don't remember exactly how many laps I led, but it was the most. And I actually had the lead with 2 laps to go. We're going into one. Zach is right behind me in second. And what does he do? Frickin' lag bubble. Yep, the lag bubble caused me to spin in one and killed my race. So simple as that.
Yeah, I remember that. I felt so bad
Yep.
for you. I remember on that restart, I'm like, this isn't gonna go the way Kane wants it to go. He's gonna get wrecked right here. I just know it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you called it.
I did.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, you can jump in there. We know you had a
Yeah.
heartbreaker or two.
I spent a lot of time crying, but I'll try to fly through them as fast as I can. But first one is Texas Season 4. I forgot how it actually happened, how I was on 2 tires at the end or whatever. But I was on older tires, and I was racing Kodrak for the lead. And
Oh, God.
yeah, he'll be on the list of scrubs for sure. But yeah, I was holding him off for a while. Then I think he got around me. Then there was a caution, and I'm like, okay, I'm back in this. I think I might have taken no tires or no fuel or something like that. Then on the restart, we're all just in a big pile of cars, and I was on the outside, maybe even on the front row, and DeMonte dumped me. Just, that was the first time I ever
piece of
got.
shit.
That was the first time I ever got mad at DeMonte. But on top of that, like that wasn't the worst part. But I'm sitting on the backstretch after I spun trying to get going again, and I ran out of gas. So it just all compounded into a crappy finish, and then Kodrock won on top of it, and then
No, he didn't.
He didn't win, and he got really pissed about it, and that was his last race ever with us.
Yep.
So that's the first one. Next one I wrote down is Bristol Season 4, where I was leading, had a really good race going, and I glitch spun with 5 to go and gave the win to Paint, the 88 fan, and and Middleberg or Kane, say what came out of that one.
Oh, that's right. In the race awards, which we like to do at the conclusion of every race, we post it on our Facebook page, and by we I mean me. In most every scenario, oh, that's right. What happened to your car, Thermite? You were worth $1 million, and then you lost $999,999, and you're worth just a general dollar by the end of that one.
Yeah, that one always sticks out. But then I got my redemption a couple seasons later. I won at Bristol finally. Then another
Asshole.
one. Yeah. Another one was Homestead Season 4. I had a lot of heartbreaks that season. But Homestead Season 4, I knew I needed a miracle to win the championship. And I was doing everything I could. Even if I won, I don't think I would have gotten it because of where Damani was. But on the last lap, I was right behind Damani going for the win. And Homestead's amazing because you can run wherever you want. And I was thinking, do I dive bomb him or do I run the high line and try to get a good run and get him down the front stretch? Well, I did that, and I just never got the run. And I always think about that finish. That's one of those races where they ask if there's anything you would have done differently. I would have said hell yeah. So that one
Hell
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Martinsville Season 6, I think chasing Damani for the win, and we were coming down to it. I might have had a shot at him, or at least a shot to give him a bump and run. And with a couple to go, we're catching the lapped car of, I think it was Let's Go Jimmy in the 48 car.
Oh.
And I had to clear myself. Yeah. I had to get a run down the backstretch, or that was it. That was my only shot at it. And I thought he was going to be a good little lapped car, like a Sooner Jimmy. and give me some room, but he kept his foot in it and tried to get a run off the turn or whatever. And I was coming up and he was coming down, and we just collided off of turn 2, and that was the end of my race there.
Like every league, there's always some bad apples. Not necessarily all the time that they were like bad people in terms of assholes, but they just weren't great drivers. But we had some assholes too, and it's just the way it happened. We didn't have to kick out a lot of people in our last couple of seasons, but there were times that people just had to go, and there were scrubs, and most of the people that were removed or were really scrub salads happened in the first couple of seasons, and these guys weren't here for it. And I'm going to mention a couple of them. The first guy, he was a weird case. His name was V Dreamer, and then a bunch of damn numbers. He was very consistent with showing up. He was actually when we got to the end of season 2, he was the only driver to have started every single race up to that point. Like, he was at every single race. And he never... the amazing part is he only ever won one race, and it was the worst CCRS race of all time in terms of car count. It was a Martinsville race, of all places. It was season 1. I shit you not. We had 6 total people there that night, but me and Damani were two of them. But we were pace cars because we knew if we ran the race, we were just going to kick everybody's ass that was there. That race was a really weird one because the guy who had won the championship, Zach, he won the championship that year. We had actually suspended him for that week because he was acting like a candy ass the week before. And me, Damani, and Zach were all the managers at that time, so we were just like, okay, you're gonna sit out for a week, because you're being a fucking weirdo. And so he didn't race. And the 4 people that did race, V Dreamer being one of them, I mean, I hate saying this, but it's the truth. They were slower guys. They were not very consistent, including one of them, the guy who had won our first ever race, was showing back up after weeks off, just to, I don't know, just to whatever, show up and maybe have a chance to win. So it was literally a 4-car race around Martinsville, and he ended up winning that race just because he was the only one he was the slowest. Oh, he was the fastest slow guy. So there wasn't much to say, but he ended up filtering his way out. He made too many stupid decisions. He was like a fucking Cole Witt at Homestead in Xfinity 2016. I mean, he would put himself out there in the front of pack for no damn reason and get swallowed up on restarts and cause inadvertent problems. Like, he didn't mean to, but he just did because it was that slow. And but he was probably one of the biggest scrubs, and why we let him stay around for as long as we did, we will never know. But I guess it was just a car count. I think that was the only reason why. He was a great example. There's that guy, Scout Bunk. The 2 of you know him.
Yeah.
You know the name. Oh, yep. Man. He ran one race with us. Season 1 Darlington. And this kid just, oh my God. Zach, I can't remember the amount of times where he was like, this kid better never ever run another race in this league. He was so annoying. I hate his fucking voice. And I'm just sitting there laughing my ass off. I'm like, dude, just give the kid a chance. And this was before the race. And then I understood why he didn't want him there once he started racing. He's just a hazard in the way, a fucking roadblock. He was a weapon out there all night. And, yeah, huge scrub salad. So glad that he was a one and done. Thermite, why don't you go ahead and name a scrub that you had a hard time racing against? You had 3 seasons of it, and there were a couple of guys, so.
I mean, I don't know. In terms of racing against, I never really had many problems. I mean, I liked racing with everyone for the most part. If they raced me clean, I'd race them clean, and vice versa. But in terms of scrubbiness away from the racetrack, I'll go with my friend Race Team 28. I've known him since 2011 in the NASCAR The Game 2011 days. We get along fine, but I invited him to CCRS in season 4, he was fine, but then we get to Dover, and he has a run-in with Middleburg late in the race. Tyler already talked about that, and that was his first hint of saltiness, because obviously you'd be pissed about that. So we didn't think it was anything out of the ordinary, but he fought all season long, had some good speed. He even won the first race of the chase at New Hampshire. So we're thinking, okay, maybe he's a player in the championship. And then everything just all unravels because we get to just before the would-be race at Chicagoland when Middleburg, and I think Damani probably had input too, they had the bright idea of changing to Chicagoland to Kansas. Now, because the racing might be a little better, we want some action in the chase that Chicago might not bring. Well, this causes everything, like all hell just broke loose. I was mad about it, and I voiced my displeasure, but I understood. Race Team, on the other hand, he just goes off on the CCRS Facebook page and just has this huge rant. He's probably drunk and just swearing and saying whatever. Then Middleburg and Damani jump in. And what did one of you guys say? Like, okay, Brian Franz, or no, Race Team was like, okay, you must be Brian Franz making all these rule changes, and
Yeah, he basically he got all pissed off, wrote some big old statement on our Facebook page, and then like basically calling us Brian France, and Damani came in. We'll go ahead and post the screenshots for right here. Just as a reference, because it was actually a hilarious discussion, because Damani just was not putting up with it. Like, he just was, the sarcasticness completely came out. It was absolutely a hilarious encounter. And you could tell that, like, he was getting pissed off, like, but more and more, even though, like, he was like trying to LOL and haha laugh it off, but he was salty about it, like. And it just got to the point where, I mean, I even said, and I even jumped in, chimed in, like, man, I don't have a problem with you as a racer. I think you're a fine and clean racer. There's nothing wrong with you there, but a stupid thing to throw such a fit about. Unbelievable. And I'm just so glad that was like the last real hint of drama that we had in our league. He went out with quite a bang, I guess you can say that.
Kane, do you want to do one, or
do you have a scrub?
Fine, Jamie Dobbs, absolutely. Well, I mean, first of all, this guy never had a mic, so we didn't know if he was saying anything. This guy, even though he didn't have a mic, he found every opportunity to complain about whatever it was, whether it was like, what the fuck you doing this for? Screw. Well,
he didn't swear.
I don't know if he went that far. No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. But he did get salty, obviously, when he subbed for Nick. And did he actually win that race, or did we strip that win away?
No, he didn't win. Period.
Okay,
he didn't win that race. Period. He ended up finishing second, and then we took away the second place finish because he jumped that restart. Like
exactly. Exactly. Like
that was his worst racing move. Other than that, he was generally clean.
Well, yeah, that's the thing with him. His biggest problem was never admitting he was wrong. He thought he knew exactly how to race. He was perfect and everything. And I personally never had an issue racing with him. We always gave each other plenty of room. But any time he did get into someone or someone got into him, it would always be the other guy's fault, even if Jamie brake checked him into the turn, like slowing down at the start-finish line or something, because he had to take it so carefully. And that's kind of where drama started with him, because he would come to us then and complain, like, "Hey, this guy, I think he's no good, bro." And
so in other words, he was like Kyle Busch.
Yeah, exactly like Kyle Busch, because he also likes Kyle Busch. So, yeah, I mean, he was generally okay, but liked to be a drama queen, and that's where I'll leave it.
Well, yeah, to jump in there, he started racing, the whole league started getting better as far as competitiveness when season 4 rolled around, and that's when Nick, that's when you joined, that's when Race Team joined, that's when Jamie Dobbs joined. We had it was almost like a youth movement. It sounds weird to say, but I mean, like, the analogy works here.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of new people that came in, and he started out, like, whenever he'd have a run in and he'd come to us and he'd say, like, hey, look, this is what I think going on. I was willing to listen to him. Like, that whole first season, he
Yeah.
ran part-time. You know, he seemed like, it was like, okay, I got you, man. I can believe that. I can do this. And even when it started out season 5, the same way, like, I just had no problem listening to him, because I never had a run in with him either. Him and I mean, sure, we got involved in wrecks. It's just what happened. But him and I never had a personal run in or anything like that, as to where I was mad at him or he was mad at me. So I was always willing to listen and be, listen to his side of things. And then it just started to get to the point where it's like, man, you're complaining about quite a bit. Like, damn, not
Yeah.
everything can just be perfect in the way you want it. Like, he was complaining about, like, Martinsville or whatever because he had a different braking zone than other people. It's like, I okay, I mean, I'm sorry, but it's still racing. Shit happens. It just, there's situations that you put yourself in that I don't know. I don't know really what to tell you. People are not just, like, running over on purpose, and everybody's not out to get you. And if you're somebody that's like that, league racing ain't ever gonna work out for you. It's kind of like the whole bubble thing. We are obviously extremely experienced with all the Technics games, and it was an element of the game, and you have to work around it. And Jamie Dobbs just falls victim to his own personality, because he just he just couldn't comprehend elements of the game that you have to work with. You have to. If you don't want to, then you shouldn't be playing the game, because you're just going to get pissed off every single time.
And he was.
And he was. I mean, he won his fair share of races. There are races that he didn't have drama in, but it just seemed more often than not that he was complaining about something.
Yeah, because, I mean, he thought he could win every single race, and if he didn't, he would always go back to one tiny event that might have cost him the win. And, yeah, his restart jumping at Richmond when he subbed for me, I wasn't there to see it, obviously. I was at Chicagoland watching the race there. And I get back, and I see a message from Middleburg, like, okay, Jamie Dobbs got second for you. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. And then I get another message like, hold on a minute. And I'm like, oh, crap, what happened?
Yeah, Middleburg and I were discussing that, actually. Like, did he jump the restart? And from my vantage point, because I don't know I forget where I restarted, but I think I restarted near the front. And he nearly wrecked me going into one. I nearly spun out. And he had started at the very back of the field on that. So that's how I knew he had to have jumped.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the whole Jamie Dobbs thing, that race was one of the most controversial ones. And because it really did have an absolute impact on the chase and what happened there. Thermite got screwed. And just races are nuts, man. And that particular one, it was like, it came down to Jamie Dobbs actually almost won the race, and there was a late caution. I got spun out by a guy that had joined in. It was his only race, and we needed a number, and it was an accident. It was just a racing deal. But these races were always just so crazy. Some of them, not all of them, but this particular one, it was Jamie almost had it won, and then he went, like, from good to just total shitstorm. And then there was a miscommunication on the end of that one. Jamani, he was in, like, the back with me, and his mic was always terrible in our league races. Holy shit. There was times where you didn't know whether he was going to be able to speak or not. And this was one of them. Because he was like, man, I was trying to tell you, to wave it off. He jumped that fucking restart, and the race had finished, and then I find out that he had jumped it bad, and I didn't realize it initially. And then when I started thinking about what had happened, because I had felt him, he had hit me on the restart, he hit Kane on the restart, he got into like 3 people, and it was only a 7-car race, so it was like, quite a bit of shit happened. Like, on one restart, for no reason, it was just a really bad sequence of events. In a weird way, just to kind of wrap all of this up, we evolved not only as a league, but we evolved as people too. I want to make this like a deeper meaning than what it is. Yeah, it's just a fucking dumbass racing league, on a video game, on a shitty game as it is. These games weren't that great. They were not, they were not realistic. We just tried to have some fun, and I just couldn't have been happier by the time we ended it on what we had done. And like, we had just gotten to the point where we had a bunch of clean people we raced with. The races we had were pretty decent and at times really exciting, and the ones that weren't were usually pretty clean. And there wasn't a whole lot of bullshit. Things were pretty straightforward, and we just tried to have a good time. And we ended it on a pretty good note, I'd say. And I, I'm gonna get emotional here for a minute. I want to credit a lot of that to you, Thermite.
Well, yeah. Oh God.
Oh God.
I told myself I wasn't going to do this.
Damn it! I said I wasn't gonna get emotional.
Yeah. But I do appreciate it, though. I mean, I was happy to help and kind of step in as a co-host in like season 5-ish or whatever.
Yeah, when Damani decided to kick himself to the curb, Damani was having a lot of bad connection problems. Season 5 was just a shit show for Damani.
Yeah.
But you stepped into that role, and like, just with running the page and running the league itself, like, you and I just meshed together so well. We didn't ever have a disagreement, I don't think.
I don't think so.
And if we didn't quite agree on something, we just settled it quickly. It was simple. Like, we weren't ridiculous about it. And Tamani, who has a currently lost connection and is not here to defend himself, but him and I, we had our share of disagreements, and I don't want to put it in this terms of wording, but if he was here, I'm sure he would agree to an extent. But him and I weren't the best of managers as together. Like, I feel like in order to run a successful league, you need to have more than just one person to come in and to help to manage things and keep things steady. And I think that you and I, Thermite, we did it the best out of all of us. I mean, I was there the whole time. Obviously, I came up with the league. I started it. Me and Zach started it, but we were just fucking newbies. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. So that's how that kind of started. And then it evolved into me and Damani. And we made improvements, and Damani, he did step up in certain ways. Like, when he went out and he got you. Like, he got you, he got Race Team. He wanted to bring more people in, and it was the right decision. We needed that, especially after Season 3. It went from, the whole weirdness of me and Damani being taking ourselves out of Season 1, and then Zach ends up running away with it, winning the title. And then in Season 2, we brought a little of it back. I ended up winning it that season, but we ran the whole calendar year. We ended up running, I believe it was 45 races across the whole year. And we made mistakes along the way. Ultimately, those first 2 seasons should have been divided up into 2. We should have ended up running a total of 8 seasons instead of 6. But we just made, we just had to learn as we go. And getting back to my point of the league roles and the manager roles, like, once it got to me and you, we stepped up, we cleaned shit up, and like really put together a league and did what me and Damani and what me and Zach couldn't do. I just liked, one of the main things I liked, I think, too, is a lot of people that ran, you, me, Damani, Duhub, Kane, we were all damn painters. We came from like one specific area. Not everybody, granted, but a nice little chunk of people who we were from this one element of the video game, the paint booth. We all just ended up coming together. It was just, I don't know. I always thought that was a weird, or neat, I should say, coincidence that all happened. We get along well, I guess. If you like this and this is what you like doing, it's like painting cars, you like video games, you stick to that, and that's perfectly okay because that's something that you like, and this is something we like. This is what we can talk about and shoot the shit and laugh about and reminisce and all this crap. And that's why this particular episode of podcast had to happen, because this is something we do on a weekly basis. We sit there and we crack the jokes and the running gags. Obviously the Pocono pit road spin of mine, Thermite winning the regular season championship and choking in the chase. Giovanni, we didn't even reference it actually, the particular race, but he had a restart jump that we always bust his ass for. In season 6 at Kansas, he jumped this damn restart so clearly, and I didn't do a very good job of calling it or really calling him out on it because he was just gonna win the race anyways. But we always bust his ass for it, and then we just bust Kane for throwing it in there and being a shitty driver. That's what we look back on. We reflect on the memories, good and bad, and just enjoy it. We just enjoy the fact that we were able to make a game that was not great and make something like out of it, a simple league, and we found enjoyment from it, and we have things that we can. I mean, if we were to meet up in 20 years, we'd still kick each other in the nuts for like, hey, nice regular season championship, scrub.
Yeah.
Like over a damn video game. I still can't like wrap my head around the fact that we have gotten this amount of enjoyment and even excitement at times. There was exciting moments, close races. Hell, even something we haven't talked about. We did a short track series around the little quarter miles or all the tracks, and we had some great races there too. And we made the most of it. We certainly did.
Yeah, we did.
Absolutely.
Damn straight, boys.
Yeah.
We've rambled on enough, and we're going to wrap it up. So, this has been another episode of Behind the Wall. And for Damani HD, who has unfortunately had to bail out early because his connection's a shit show, and that was referenced in the league many, 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 many damn times. I can't tell you the amount of lobbies we had to reset because of this bastard, but it had to happen. Oh my god, his connection was terrible.
Every week.
Oh, that's not even an exaggeration. So, for Kane Jr. 88, who loved the bubble lag, Thermite 917, regular season championship, and Dollar Generals.
I wouldn't want it any other way.
He would not.
Okay, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, you'd rather have a championship and $1 million, but you don't. You have a regular season championship and a general dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for myself, Middleburg won the choke artist. This has been Behind the Wall, presented by Perky Jerky. You've been Behind the Wall, and thank you for listening.
I just want to try this one more time, just to be sure everything sounds good. Kane, say a normal sentence.
Goddamn.
Goddamn.
This should work because since this saves...
Sorry.
I was saying...
So let's review the intro for you, Kane. It's real simple. Do it how you normally would do it, and then obviously say Damani's here as well. For the second week in a row, you can make a crack about that if you want to. That's perfectly fine. Let Damani say
I dare you. I dare you, Kane. I fucking dare you. Make a crack about me, Kane. I'm just kidding.
So definitely really make a crack about Damani.
What's up?
Oh my god.
This isn't the 90s anymore, Kane.
It's so out of style, honestly.
Well, seeing as this weekend is Darlington, I would say it's back in style.
Oh, shit.
Oh, okay. Who's your favorite driver? Fucking Kyle
Jeff
Petty.
Bodine.
Why is Kane here anyway? He only raced like one season.
2.
Okay, fine. Well, we'll just count the one because you didn't know how to race before that. You still really didn't, but we'll just give it to you.
Thermite's getting salty and taking down everyone else because he's a regular season champion.
I'd rather be a regular season champion than not even make the chase.
What is up, YouTube? You are
Wait, what was
listening
that?
to
What the hell? Somebody fucking rubbing erasers together or something?
God damn it!
I don't know who that was.
All right, let's
Shut
go.
up.
I think it was Damani. Like he was rattling a chain.
I think it was him last time too that happened.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Last week it was pepper shakers, now it's erasers.
Up next is Thermite's regular season championship.
Yeah, what does that sound like?
Sadness. It's the sound of sadness.
The world's smallest violin.
It could be.
Yep.
Anyway, all right. So this week the Monster Energy Cup Series had a. God damn it!
One last ruined it all.
Get it together, Kane.
Let it take it, Kane!
That was more all of our fault.
No shit, it was your fault.
Yeah, I didn't start it.
That stutter in the intro, though.
But tonight's show is mostly going to revolve around our shitty PS3 racing league, the Coca-Cola Racing Series. Well, it wasn't that shitty, but there was a lot of shitty racing in it, so we're basically just gonna, shoot the shit.
Yeah,
You're just describing how you drove.
I bet there was from sixth place.
Yeah. Please, I was fortunate to finish 6th.
Yeah, more like 17th.
I was gonna sit there like you're shitting on the league already. It's like, come on now, goddammit.
Goddamn.
And ended up being a co-host with Middleburg after Damani said, "Screw this, I'm going home." And but yeah,
you guys.
thank you, Kane.
Thank you, Kane.
Hey, Kane, shut up.
I think with the Middleburg, he said I was just eating ice cream by the end. No one was going to catch me. But that's
Chocolate or vanilla?
Well, it's got to be chocolate.
There you go.
Yeah, but
Fucker. Get your fucking chocolate ice cream. Get the fuck out of here.
I'm going to be honest. Obviously, as DeMonte alluded to, I was not very good at New Hampshire, but that was really the story of my life.
Just New Hampshire.
I said this is pretty much the story
He was
of my
good
life.
everywhere.
Flat track, Martinsville. I was really bad at the road courses.
We're talking about favorite races.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Alright.
those sloppy races, flush them down the drain.
Fucking A right, Kane.
Yep.
Yeah, are you actually flushing something?
What the?
Yes.
It's probably
Yes,
talking
I
from the bathroom now.
No, I just finished.
It wouldn't be the first time.
He was in a bathroom by unpaid interns. What? I can't hear you. I'm taking a shit. Our bikes, they suck ass. Like, we choreographed that race. I was able to stay in front. Obviously I had helpers. Thank you, Thermite. Love you,
You're
Daddy.
welcome. Hey.
Daddy. And
Special friend.
that's right. Thermite was my special friend, and we worked well together.
Because I was in Matt Kenz's car, and that's his sponsor. So yeah.
That is correct.
Not anymore, but yeah.
Yes.
Shut up.
Thank you, Kane.
Thank you, Kane. Kane
Yo,
with a
thank you, Kane.
Yeah, but
Thermite. Why don't you go ahead and name a scrub that you had a hard time racing against? You know, you had 3 seasons of it, and there were a couple of guys. So
ooh.
tell us.
All right. Well, Kane 88 Dale Jr. No, I'm kidding. I mean,
Kane Junior 88.
in terms
I
of
was like,
race,
Kane,
what?
yeah. Kane Junior 88 is my PSN name too. Just
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Kane.
Thank you, Kane with the old thank you, Kane.
probably too embarrassed to admit, to sound to reveal what his voice sounded like. Yeah, he sounds like this. Probably sounds funny from all the times he's gotten it on with his wife in bed.
Oh my! But it's going on the internet, you know.
Sorry, but it's true. But anyways,
That's fucking hilarious. Because this is something we do on a weekly basis. We shit there. We shit there.